Blessed Christian Lifestyle. This is Anthony, and today we're going to talk about Jesus predicting his own death. All right. Now, remember, Jesus came, he came to die for our sins. All right. He knew this from the very beginning. Hey, I'm coming here to die for the people's sins. All right. Starting in the Old Testament, we needed a sacrifice for our sins. All right. This knowing that, hey, God knows that, hey, we're going to sin. All right. People, we're going to sin. All right. So God understands that. So he gives us a way to be cleansed from sin, which is to have a sacrifice. All right. So in the Old Testament, hey, you got to have a lamb and you have to sacrifice and have to shed blood. And, that's how in every, there's the offerings. Man, that was a huge book. In the book of Leviticus, man, that is huge. It shows you all about the offerings. It, it talks about the offerings, and it talks about, the different sacrifices, the different offerings to God. And so we go from the Old Testament doing that to the New Testament where um, Jesus dies for our sins. All right. So here we have uh, Matthew chapter 20, verse 17. Now, Jesus going up to Jerusalem, took the 12 disciples aside on the road and said to them, behold, we are going up to Jerusalem, and the Son of Man will be betrayed to the chief priests and to the scribes, and they will condemn him to death and deliver him to the Gentiles to mock and to scourge, to crucify, and the third day he will rise again. So Jesus is saying ahead of time, hey, I'm gonna be betrayed. Go to chief priests, and they will be condemned. All right, and deliver him to the Gentiles to mock and scourge and to crucify. And the third day he will rise again. So he's saying, hey, I'm gonna be mocked, I'm gonna be crucified, but I will rise on the third day. So Jesus, knowing this, is going into Jerusalem. All right, that is huge. So before they go into Jerusalem, hey, you know, um, before we go into Jerusalem, just know, like, hey, you know, I'm gonna get betrayed, and I'm gonna get crucified, and I'm gonna get mocked. All right, like, who's with me? All right, that's pretty much Jesus right before he goes into Jerusalem, before the triumphant entry. All right, before he goes in. Now, after he says that, hey, they're going into Jerusalem, and we'll go to Matthew chapter 21. Now, when they drew near Jerusalem and came to Bethphage at the Mount of Olives, then Jesus sent two disciples, saying to them, go into the village opposite you, and immediately you will find a donkey tied and a colt with her. Loose them and bring them to me. So, like, hey, so Jesus, he's trying to fulfill a prophecy here. Hey, the Messiah will be coming into Jerusalem riding on a donkey. All right. Please subscribe and please like. All right. Please help me out. Thank you. All right. So he's saying, hey, go in there and go into the village and find me a colt. And it says here, find a donkey tied and a colt with her, loose them and bring them to me. And if anyone says anything to you, you shall say, the Lord has need of them, and immediately he will send them. All this was done that it might be fulfilled, which was spoken by the prophet, saying, tell the daughter of Zion, behold, your king is coming to you lowly, sitting on a donkey, a colt, the foal of a donkey. So Jesus is fulfilling this prophecy, right? This is one of the prophecies that Jesus is going to fulfill. The Messiah riding on a donkey. That is huge. All right. That is huge. That's actually one of my favorite prophecies. It's like, man, who would have known? Like, that was the sign. All right. That was the sign that that was the Messiah. The Messiah riding on a donkey into Jerusalem. That was the sign. It's very important to know your prophecies because you will see the signs. Today, we're looking for the signs of the end times. All right. Rumors of war. All right. We have the Antichrist. We have, um, we're going to have I'm sorry. All right. Like, look for the signs. How's it going? Luis, how's it going, man? All right. So here we have, tell the daughter of Zion, behold, your king is coming to you lowly, sitting on a donkey, a colt, the foal of a donkey. So the disciples went and did as Jesus commanded them. They brought the donkey and the colt, laid their clothes on them, and set him on them. And a very great multitude spread their clothes on the road. So this is Jesus going into Jerusalem, right? Here it is. This is the sign. Jesus going into Jerusalem. A great multitude spread their clothes on the road. Others cut down branches from the trees and spread them on the road. Then the multitudes who went before and those who followed cried out, saying, Hosanna to the Son of David. Blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord. Hosanna is the highest. So people recognize him. All right. People recognize them. You have an Etsy site. So so Jesus is going into Jerusalem and he is being gloried, he's being worshipped. All right, people are laying out their clothes in front of and they're using branches. It says here, great multitude spread their clothes on the road. Others cut down branches from the trees and spread them on the road. And the multitudes went before and who followed Christ, saying, Hosanna to the Son of David. Blessed is he who comes in the name, all right, of the name of the Lord. Hosanna is the highest. So one thing to remember here is before this, Jesus was doing the miracles. People have heard of Jesus, all right, but Jesus wasn't public yet. It wasn't like super public. All right. It wasn't until the triumphant entry when he came riding on the donkey that, hey, that's Jesus. That's the one that's doing all these miracles. That's the one that did all these healings. And that's who everybody's been talking about. That's Jesus. Like he finally revealed himself. Like that is the Messiah. That's the Messiah. So that's what's going on here. Like they recognize that. Like that's the Messiah. Like that's the one we've been hearing about. All right. Uh Jesus has been spread it out. It's been spread out. And this is Jesus putting himself in public for the first time. All right. Triumphant entry. And they're worshiping Jesus as he's entering Jerusalem. All right. As he's entering the place where he's going to be crucified, he told his 12 disciples, hey, just so you know, I'm going to get crucified. I'm going to get betrayed. I'm going to get crucified. I'm going to get mocked. But I will rise on the third day. All right. Jesus did say that. I will rise on the third day. All right. So, and this is him going into the triumphant entry. He's being worshipped. So knowing all this already, like, hey, I will be betrayed. Right. But again, I will rise on the third day. All right. I will rise on the third. That's what Jesus is doing here. All right. And when he had come into Jerusalem, all the city was moved, saying, who is this? So the multitude said, this is Jesus, the prophet from Nazareth of Galilee. So the people knew who he was. Then Jesus went into the temple of God and drove out all those who bought and sold in the temple and overturned the tables of the money changers and the seats of those who sold doves. So Jesus, what's the first thing he does when he goes into Jerusalem? He's like, hey, I'm gonna go to the temple, my father's house. I'm gonna go to the temple. And the first thing he sees is a bunch of, flea market kind of stuff going on, money exchangers, people selling, and he is just disgusted by that. He's like, what is going on here? This is a holy temple and they're selling and buying stuff. Like that is Jesus went into the temple of God and drove out all those who bought and sold in the temple and overturned the tables of the money changers and the seats of those who sold doves. And he said to them, it is written, my house shall be called a house of prayer, but you have made it a den of thieves. All right. The temple was a house of prayer. It's very holy. And instead, hey, let's make a flea market out of it. No big deal. And Jesus comes and he just starts turning tables. Man, that is huge. Then the blind and the lame came to him in the temple and he healed them. All right. So they came to him and he healed them. Like, hey. So Jesus is becoming very, very public. Like it's very hard to miss him at this point. He's healing the blind, he's healing the sick. Man, that is huge, man. That is huge. But when the chief priests and the scribes saw the wonderful things that he did, and the children crying out in the temple and saying, Hosanna to the Son of David, they were indignant and said to him, do you hear what they are saying? And Jesus said to them, yes. Have you ever read, out of the mouth of babes and nursing infants, you have perfected praise? So the teachers, the people running the temple are now, they have something against Jesus. They're like, he's taking away the shine, from them, even though, hey, this is Jesus, this is the Messiah. All right, this is the Messiah. And he says, like, have you never read? He's telling the teachers and the Pharisees that, like, hey, have you never read? Out of the mouth of babes and nursing infants, you have perfected praise. All right. Then he left them and went out of the city of Bethany, and he lodged there. Now in the morning, as he returned to the city, he was hungry, and seeing a fig tree by the road, he came to it and found nothing on it but leaves, and said to it, let no fruit grow on you ever again. Immediately the fig tree withered away. So this is actually one of those things that is kind of hard to understand at first. Like, why would Jesus curse a fig tree? Jesus literally cursed a fig tree. All right. He says here, he returned to the city. He was hungry, and seeing a fig tree by the road, he came to it and found nothing on it but leaves, and said to it, let no fruit grow. So it looks like a fruitful tree, yet nothing was growing out of it. So it's like, what's the point of looking like you have fruit with no fruit? That's a metaphor. The city of Jerusalem, that's for Jerusalem. It looks like it has fruit. They have the holy temple, they have the chief priests, they have everything going on that looks holy. But when you go in it, it wasn't holy. All right. It says den of thieves. All right. So that's actually a metaphor. That's actually sometimes that's a huge question that people ask. Like, why would he curse a fig tree? But it was a metaphor. He cursing Jerusalem, like, hey, like, you look fruitful. When you think of Jerusalem, you think of holiness, but yet there was no fruit. Here we go, verse 20. And when the disciples saw it, they marveled, saying, how did the fig tree wither away so soon? Like, how did it, like, pretty much rot so soon? So Jesus answered and said to them, surely I say to you, if you have faith and do not doubt, you will not only do what was done to the fig tree, but also if you say to the mountain, be removed and be cast into the sea, it will be done. And whatever you ask in prayer, believing you will receive. When you pray for something, believe that you have received it. That is another huge one. All right. When you pray, Lord, I really want to, like, hey, pray as if you already have it. And whatever thing you ask in prayer, believe you will receive. Believe. All right. Now, when he came into the temple, the chief priests and the elders of the people confronted him, and he was teaching and said, by what authority are you doing these things? And who gave you this authority? But Jesus answered and said to them, I will also ask you one thing, which if which if you tell me, likewise I will tell you by what authority do these things. The baptism of John, was it from heaven or from men? So Jesus' authority is being questioned here, right? By the Pharisees, by the teachers, by the holy of holies of the temple. They're questioning Jesus, but Jesus knows their heart, he knows their mind. All right. And he's gonna, like, okay, well, if you're gonna ask me a question, let me ask you a question. All right. The baptism of John, was it from heaven or from men? Was John the Baptist, was he heavenly, or was he from just men? Like, he was just a normal guy. And they reasoned among themselves, saying, if we say from heaven, he will say to us, why then do you not believe him? But if we say from men, we fear the multitude and all the counts as the prophets. So they answered, and Jesus said, we do not know. And he said to them, neither will I tell you by what authority I do these things. They didn't want to give an answer. They're like, well, if we say heaven, he's gonna be like, so if John the Baptist was heavenly, why did you not listen to him? But if we say he's from men, like a regular person, people, they're gonna hate us. So they're trying to give the political correct answer, but yet there is no actual political correct answer here. All right, they're just like, hey, what answer should we give them? They huddle up, and there's no political answer. So they're like, you know what? We don't know. And Jesus said, well, I'm not going to tell you by what authority, I come from. So that's really what's going on there. It's like a back and forth. Jesus versus all the Pharisees, the Sadducees, the scribes, the teachers, the holy of the holies, like, going back and forth. And as mentioned earlier, they are going to crucify Jesus Christ for that. They're like, no, he's, false prophet. He's, they're gonna, like, blasphemy. All right. And he will be mocked. He will be crucified. But he will rise on the third day. All right. That's what he said. He will rise on the third day. Man, that is huge. That's one thing to remember. All right. He will rise on the third day. That's the most important part. It's not that he's going to get mocked. It's not that he's going to get crucified. It's that he will rise on the third day. All right. All right. Thank you for watching. And hey, God bless you. All right. Thank you for watching.